prototyping utilities. With these utility classes, you can change the styling of content on your page, of components, or even create new components by using these utility classes and some more. These utility classes needs extra CSS compiled with Sass, so they are not included in the default installation of Foundation. With the push of this button, you can change the style sheet to one that includes the prototyping utilities. So this is what we're going to create. We can see that we can add a radius to a component. So here's a radius added to a button, or we can add it to a card as well. We can also make it rounded. Here's a rounded button or a rounded image. We can add a border to, for example, a button or a card, or a shadow effect to a button or a card. We can use an arrow utility to display arrows. Here are 4 different arrows. We can use a separator utility to create this effect with the below horizontal line under the text. We can change the font styling. We can have normal font, bold font, italic font, and white font. We can change the list styling, so we can remove the bullet from an unordered list. We can set it to be a disk or a circle or a square. And for ordered list, we can also remove the bullet for the first level here, or we can make it decimal or lower alpha or lower Latin, a lower Roman, an upper alpha, an upper Latin, or upper Roman. So these are all different ways you can do that. We also have text helpers that can be used for image replacement, so to hide the text or to transform the text to uppercase, lowercase, or capitalized text. We can change the text decoration to be underlined, overlined, or with line through. We can truncate the text. We can make it not wrap or make it wrap. Then we have margin helpers, where we can change the margin of elements. A lot of examples there. And we can also use padding helpers in a similar way to change the padding of elements. We can set the sizing of elements, the max width as well, and the height, max height. Then we can change the box sizing property. We can remove the border. We can use display classes to change how the elements display on the page, for example as a block or inline block element. Then we can change the position of our elements to relative, absolute, sticky, and so on. We can control the overflow, for example on all sides or only horizontal and vertical axis. So that is a lot of different examples. I'll walk you through each of them. Let's go into the code. So before I continue, let's go back again and see what the practice section looks like. So I have all this code already put in. Now we're just using these basic classes to alter the styling of all of these elements. So first we have a button and a card, and we want to make use of the radius utility class. So we simply add the radius class next to the button class here. And for the card, we also add the radius class there. Now let's save, go back and refresh. And we can't see anything right now, but if we click this button, we can see that the correct style sheet is applied, and now we can see the radius, the border radius on all 4 corners on the button and the card. Similarly, we can make it rounded by adding the class rounded to a button or to an image. We can add the class rounded. Let's go back and take a look. Here we see the rounded button and rounded image. Now let's look at the bordered effect. So we have a button here, and we'll add the class bordered, and then we have a card, and we'll add the class bordered. Let's save, go back and refresh, swap the style sheet. Now we can see that a thin border has been applied to our button and the card. Let's take a look at shadows. We simply add the class shadow to the button and to the card. Save, go back and refresh, change this style sheet here. Now we can see the shadow effect being applied to the button and card. So this is all part of what is called component styling. So this can be used to alter some of the components if you want to add shadow, border, or make them round by applying border radius. Now let's look at the next utility class to creating arrows. We have some empty div elements here. To create these arrows, we simply add the arrow down class, or to use the other directions, we add the arrow up, right, or left. Let's save, go back and refresh, change the style sheet. Now we see our 4 arrows here. We can also use a separator for headings. Here we have 3 headings, 3 H2 heading elements. Now let's create a separator left aligned by adding the class separator left. This will left align the text and add a line underneath it. We can also make it center aligned by adding the class separator center, or right aligned by adding the class separator right. Let's save, go back and refresh and change our style sheet again. Now we see our 3 separators with different alignment. Now let's take a look at font styling. Here we have a strong element that makes the text look bold. If we want it to appear normal, we can add the class font normal. In our next paragraph, we want it to appear bold, so we can add the class font bold. And then we want our paragraph to appear italic, so we add the class font italic. And then we want it to appear wide, so we add the class font wide. Let's save, go back and refresh. Swap this style sheet and scroll down. Now we see our normal font that's no longer bold, even though it's inside a strong tag. Then we have our bold font, italic font, and wide font. Now let's look at list styling. Here we have some unordered lists and ordered lists. All of them is looking in their default way with the bullet and with the numbers. Let's see how we can change this. First, we want to remove our bullet from the first level only, so we can add the class no bullet. We can also choose to use a disk instead of the default bullet by using the class list disk, or displayed as a circle by adding the class list circle, or as a square by adding the class list square. Then for ordered lists, we can also remove the bullet, which in this case is actually numbers, but the class we use is still no bullet. So the classes will now be removed from the first level. And then for our next ordered list, we can make it use the decimal instead by adding the class list decimal, and we can make it use lower alpha characters by adding the class list lower alpha, like so. We can make it use lower Latin characters by adding the class list lower Latin. We can make it use lower Roman characters by adding the class list lower Roman. We can make it use upper alpha characters by adding the class list upper alpha. We can make it use upper Latin characters by adding the class list upper Latin. And finally, we can make it use upper Roman characters by adding the class list upper Roman. Now let's save this, go back and refresh. Scroll up and change our style sheet and scroll back down. Here we have the unordered list with no bullet, and then the unordered list with a disc, circle and square. Then we have the ordered list with no bullet, which is actually no numbers for the first level. Then we can change that to a decimal or a lower alpha or lower Latin or lower Roman or upper alpha, upper Latin and upper Roman. Notice that the alpha and Latin actually looks the same, but it's a matter of which computer or language the user is on when they visit your page. There might be a difference there. Great. Let's continue to look at text helpers. We can visually hide text next to an image, so the text will still be visible for screen readers but won't be visible for regular users. To do this, we have this image tag with text next to it, and then we have it wrapped in an anchor tag. So to that parent element, we add a class of text hide. Now when we save, go back and refresh, change the style sheet and scroll down here, we can see that the text is now hidden. Now let's look at text transformation and also text decoration at the same time. So to transform our characters, we can use different classes. Text uppercase to make it uppercase, text lowercase to make it lowercase, text capitalized to make it capitalized, and to make it change the text decoration, we can use the class text underline to make it underlined, class text overline to make it overlined, or the class text line through to have text with a line through. Let's save this, go back and refresh. We'll just change the style sheet, scroll down here. Now we can see the uppercase text, lowercase text, capitalized text, underlined text, overlined text, and text with line through. Now let's take a look at how we can truncate and wrap or not wrap our text. So we have these three characters here. We can truncate it to only one line by adding the class text truncate. This will remove the last characters or words and add 3 dots, as we'll see in a moment. We can make the text not wrap by adding the class text no wrap, or we can specifically make it wrap by adding the class text wrap. Let's save this, go back and refresh, change the style sheet, scroll down here. So we can see the first one is being truncated and we have these 3 dots in the end. Next one has no wrap, so it extends outside of the container. And for the third one, we set it to wrap, which is also the default.